So we're going to have a little class and then kirtan prasadam. And we have a lot of prasadam, so we hope you'll all stay. Special delivery from Govinda's. How's everybody doing?
Be happy.
Good to see you all. So, I wanted to try something a little bit different. There's one of my favorite verses in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and that chapter is on Dhyana Yoga. Dhyan means meditation. So I wanted to I have some questions that correspond to this theme. And I was just going to go through some of these questions and try to give a little answer. And then at the end, you all can chime in too with some of your own questions you might have, and we can have some discussion. So this is one of my favorite verses, the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So dhyan means meditation. So Krishna says this verse because towards the end of the 6th chapter, he's discussing the highest form of yoga, linking. So we're linking to the divine, to Krishna through meditation. So yoga means to link. So he says, of all yogis, one who always thinks of me, abides in me, renders transcendental loving service to me, he is most intimately connected with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So he ends this chapter by expressing how he's the topmost yogi is one who's absorbed in him. So earlier in the chapter, Krishna says, for whoever sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So it's very poetic. The English rendering is very poetic. Whoever sees me everywhere, sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So we're kind of going to explore this theme a little bit. I'm going to go through a few questions and answers, and then we'll open it up to all of you. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
So the first question is, when we face darkness, how does it push us to see Krishna's light? So out of all the reasons that people turn to God, the main reason is suffering. And when we face the contrast to the light, then we feel the great need for the light. Okay, if you have a light on and it's dimming, you think, oh, I'm okay. But then once it's pitch black, you can't see anything, you're gonna stumble and fall. At that point, you need the light. So at that point, you start scrambling, calling out, somebody please bring a flashlight, I can't see, at that point. So throughout all the Vedic literatures, and then even in our own life, we can see how difficult times lead to introspection. Figure out, why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Is there some more meaning to life? I remember personally, when I had left home and I came to Tucson to go to college, and I think they say that age is the age of discovery, right? Like when you leave home in your late teens, early 20s, it's an age of trying to figure out who you are. What am I going to do with my life? And a lot of people do some deep seeking at that point. So I remember one night, I have no idea what I was going through. I don't know the circumstances, but it was somehow I was going through a difficult emotional period. And I was outside, and I think it was raining. And I just called out to God, said, what is this all? Why is this happening? What is the point of all this? Who are you? Show me who you are. What is the meaning of this life? And I think a lot of us probably have had a similar experience in life. To come to spiritual life, oftentimes we're prompted by pain. When things are going real good, we have a tendency to just forget about the deeper meaning of who we are, why we're here. And so we can see that throughout the scriptures, like Gajendra. Remember, Gajendra is a celestial elephant, and he was being attacked by a crocodile. And because they lived for many thousands of years, this battle was going on for 1,000 years on the heavenly planets. And at the point where he was going to be dragged down, because these are two powerful animals, when he's going to be dragged down, at that point he called for Krishna. The Krishna, come save me. So it was in that desperate need. And then the same way Draupadi was going to be disrobed in the assembly of the Kauravas. Okay, so she's going to be embarrassed in front of the whole society, basically, and her husbands. And she called out to Krishna in her time of need, and then Krishna came to her and helped her, protected her from being dishonored. And we see this, of course, in the life of Krishna himself in Vrindavan. The Kaur boys, the gopis, all the residents of Vrindavan, they're always taking shelter of Krishna. Whenever there's any fear, the fear or difficulty is always a prompt to take shelter of Krishna. So of course, when Indra was going to flood the whole land of Vrindavan, they cried out to Krishna for help, and then Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. That was the Govardhan Leela, where he protected all the residents. And similarly, there was a fire, right? Shortly after that, there was a fire, and it was going to consume the whole village. They called out to Krishna at that time, the fire. And Krishna came and he displayed the pastime of swallowing the fire. So these are all Krishna's pastimes in this world, but it relates to how suffering prompts us to take shelter of Krishna. So when we face darkness, how does it push us to see Krishna's light? Because, as Queen Kunti says, unless we're materially impoverished or exhausted, we can't call out to the Lord with sincere feeling. So this is the qualification, is to be niskinchana. Niskinchana basically means materially bankrupt. It's a certain point in your life you feel like, I don't have anything. Like, this world has nothing to offer me. I have nothing in this world. And I fully take shelter of you. You are all I have. So that's the point that we're aiming for in our Krishna consciousness. And so that's an opportunity. So suffering is an opportunity. They say crisis is like a turning point, right? Crisis means turning point. So crisis isn't bad, but crisis is like it's a turn in the road, a fork in the road, and it's an opportunity at that point to move in a deeper direction. What is my purpose? Okay. So we'll move to number 2. How does understanding that all energies are Krishna's change our vision? So this is really important, because when we're thinking that everything exists just based on a random chance, then at that point there's no connection to the whole of creation, to God, the whole of creation, everything. And when we see the energies are part of Krishna, we're able to base our experience on love, basically. So, of course, the example of the child making a painting. This is something done out of love. So when we see the energy, so when we see that everything comes from Krishna, it reminds us of the source of this creation. So, you have the external energy, you have the internal energy. So everything we experience is from Krishna, then it can remind us of Krishna. And that's there in the Bhagavatam, describing how we see the mountains. We see the mountains as the bones of Krishna. We see the rivers as the veins of Krishna. If we see the trees are like the hair on the body of Krishna. We see the clouds as like the hair of Krishna. So we see these things, and it reminds us of Krishna. So in the same way, there's descriptions of beautiful items in nature that remind us of Krishna himself, the beauty of Krishna, like the lotus flower. The lotus flower is said to be like Krishna's eyes. And his lotus feet. His feet are like a lotus flower. And then his lotus mouth, and then he has his moon. His cheeks are said to be like moons. You know, his toenails are actually said to be like moons. Krishna's toenails. His teeth are said to be like jasmine buds. So we see the beauty of nature. We can think of Krishna. This is how the intimate resonance of Krishna. This is how they related. You know, Radharani, when she saw a bumblebee, she immediately thought this is a messenger from Krishna. You know, so she's thinking everything's reminding her of Krishna. So okay, let's move along because we have some more questions. Why is all beauty a reflection of Krishna's beauty? So Krishna says this himself. He says, all beautiful, opulent, and glorious creations spring but from a spark of my splendor. So anything that we're attracted to, any person, anything in beauty in nature, any incredible work of art, anything that we are personally attracted to that we see, it's just a little spark of Krishna's splendor. It's coming from the source of beauty and love, Krishna. You know, when we hear, like, say, our favorite music, that's just a spark of the incredible music that comes from Krishna's flute. It's just a little reflection of that. So everything that we see is beautiful that we're attracted to ultimately comes from Krishna. Krishna means the all-attractive one. That's what Krishna means, literally, the all-attractive. There's a source of everything, so there's a source of beauty. And what is this darkness when we see ugly? The darkness, Srila Prabhupada says, is the backside of Krishna. So it's when we turn our back to Krishna, then it gets ugly. And then that's when we need to seek the light. So then that's the opportunity that happens in our life. Okay, so number 4, how does offering small actions to Krishna transform them? So Krishna says, if you just offer me a little flower, leaf, fruit, or water, I'll accept it. And so this is all Krishna's energy, right? You know, this is known as the external, it's called Bahir Anga Shakti, external energy of Krishna. But when the external energy, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, when the external energy is utilized in the service of the Lord, it takes on the spiritual quality because it's the consciousness behind it. You know, what's the difference between the internal and external energy? Well, there's differences in the fact that the internal energy exists forever. It's never extinguished. But when something is dovetailed in the service of the Lord, it also takes on that spiritual quality. And Krishna never forgets. You know, he never forgets the smallest offering we make. And so, you know, I remember when I was living at the temple, you know, we would do the beautiful morning program, which is so satisfying. Isn't it, Gaura Sundar? Yeah. When you get done with the morning program, you have prasadam, you feel so satisfied, you know? And so I would get done with the morning program. And then I was gifted at one point this deity named Shaligram, Ananta. Okay. And so I'm already satisfied, right? Because of Srila Prabhupada's morning program. So then afterwards, I would go to my room and I would do a bathing of Ananta, and I would anoint him with oil, and I would perform arti. And then part of this ritual was I would go along around the grounds of Govindas, and I would find whatever seasonal flowers were blooming. So just that little act of finding these flowers and offering them to Krishna is so satisfying. And it's very meaningful. It takes on a real meaning. As opposed to, you know, with Krishna, everything has meaning. Without Krishna, everything just fades away. Everything's ephemeral. It just disappears into oblivion. And this is actually further on in the 6th chapter. Arjuna says, what of the unsuccessful yogi? What of somebody that begins to endeavor in spiritual life and they don't have the strength to continue? What happens to them? Are they like a riven cloud? So like a little piece of a cloud breaks away from the main cloud and then just disappears into oblivion. So do they just disappear into oblivion? Because at this point, they're not in the spiritual dimension and they're not in the material dimension. They couldn't make it in spiritual life, but they also aren't in the spiritual life. In other words, he's saying that they waste their time giving up material life to pursue spiritual endeavor. Krishna said no. He said they they never lose. He said, for the unsuccessful yogi, they'll take birth in a high family. He said, one who does good to my friend is never overcome by evil. So that light, like when you bring that light in, the darkness is immediately gone. So when we turn from the darkness into the light, all of a sudden it's all good, right? It's all goodness. And so that's the beauty of transforming small acts in Krishna service. It says you never lose that. Nihavikramanasasti pratyabhyona vidyate svabham abhyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobhaya. In this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. You never lose that. It's Prabhupada says, to your eternal credit. Just one flower you offer to Krishna. To your eternal, it takes on real meaning. So that's a beautiful part of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so we're almost halfway there. So I feel like when I'm giving a lecture, I'm talking too much. I guess I'm supposed to talk. I'm giving the talk, so I'm supposed to talk. How do people we meet reveal Krishna in our life? Well, it depends on our consciousness. People can reveal Krishna in our life if we're conscious of it. Because you can live your life in two ways. Like everything has meaning, everything happens for a reason, or everything is random and nothing has meaning. You can live your life like everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. You can choose how to live your life, how to view the world. It's according to Krishna consciousness, everything happens for a reason. The people in our lives are in our lives for a reason. Even difficult people. Somehow they're in our life for a reason. And when we encounter devotees of Krishna, we immediately think of Krishna. That's one of the qualities of devotee. They remind us of Krishna. So what happens when we have to engage with people who give us hardship? We can learn good qualities, right? We can learn tolerance. We can learn patience, kindness, and also we can see ourselves in that person. Sometimes I'm that person. Sometimes I've been covered over by the modes of nature. Maybe in my last life. Maybe yesterday. That was me.
That's one of the most difficult lessons.
Yeah. So then when we have compassion and empathy, it says, now I was there. Now I have the opportunity to help somebody else, to be a friend. Sometimes we have to avoid, people that are going to, take us away from God consciousness, from our spiritual path. And sometimes we have to avoid them. Or if they're going to try to commit harm, sometimes we have to avoid them. But ultimately we can be their well-wisher. We can wish them well. We can still be there. Even if they're not our friend, we can be their friend. We can wish them well. And then we give up that resentment, that poison in our own heart. We wish them well. So the number one indicator of happiness, there was a 50-year study on happiness. My Krishna Jivani is an expert on this topic. She teaches a class on psychology of happiness. And there's a 50-year study from Harvard University, and the number one indicator of happiness, do you know what it is?
Gratitude?
No. But it's tied in with gratitude.
It's Krishna.
Ultimately, yeah. Ultimately, yes. Actually, yes. We'll tie it into Krishna. Yeah. Krishna Jivani knows.
Well, I don't want to say it. If I'm wrong now, you mean? Is it our relationships?
It's the quality of our relationships. So number one indicator of happiness, a 50-year study from Harvard, is the quality of our relationships. And if you don't have a relationship with the source of beauty and love, the Surit, are the best friend in the heart of all living entities, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, if you don't have a relationship with Krishna, how is it possible that you could actually be happy? It's not possible to have good relationships, but while ignoring Krishna. Krishna is our primary relationships. That's like saying we're going to have a happy family and the husband and wife are never going to talk. How is it possible? It's not possible. If without having the relationship with Krishna, actually the other relationships will ultimately disappear. They won't actually be meaningful. The relationship with Krishna actually brings meaning to our other relationships and our other interactions. As Krishna says, they're all eternally my parts and parcels. So when we see somebody, even a bug or a tree, we see there is someone. You see there's a spark of the divine. Let me honor the spark of divineness there. Let me honor Krishna in the heart of this divine. This is Krishna's energy, even if it's just the external energy there. This is Krishna's energy. That's how Srila Prabhupada dealt with the world. He was very meticulous, how he did the accounting. He made sure that every cent was counted. He made sure to keep valuable items in a safe. He got very upset when energy was wasted. When devotees would leave lights on. He says, who is this rascal who has done this? Remember we were reading in Lilamrita? Yeah. He was very careful how he used Krishna. Now Krishna has unlimited energy. What is it lost to him if somebody keeps the light on? But no, it was Prabhupada's love, is this consciousness. He was thinking this should all be used in the service of Krishna. That was Prabhupada's love. It was his way of operating. So it was a very wonderful way to live. Okay, we have 4 more questions. We're getting closer. How do karma and jnana lead to meditation on Krishna? So karma means action, and jnana means cultivation of knowledge. Okay, so when we develop a lifestyle of our activities in the mode of goodness, then it becomes easier to have a peaceful mind. And when we have a peaceful mind, that enables us to meditate. And for jnana, when we study, when we learn, that helps to remind us of who we are. Like the first lesson in the Gita, I am not this body. You are not your body. That's the first lesson. So it helps to remind us. So this is the real meaning of karma and jnana. Krishna says in the 2nd chapter, he says, all work, which is karma, must be done as a sacrifice to Vishnu. So in other words, all work should be done as a loving offering to Vishnu. Sacrifice means we give up something of our own comfort, or we give up something that we may want to enjoy, and we offer it to Krishna. So all work should be offered as a sacrifice to Vishnu. Otherwise, it causes bondage to this world. So if we offer our work to Krishna, we become freed from karmic bondage, from this cycle of action and reaction. So we start to try to live our life that way when, like Ambarish Maharaj, remember? He would use his feet to walk to the temple of the Lord. Yeah. He used his speaking to glorify the beauty of the Lord. He used his nose to smell the aroma of the flowers and tulsi leaves offered to Krishna. So he would use all his senses in the service of the Lord. We have 10 senses actually. According to the Vedic concept, we have 10 senses. We have the active senses, which are like the hands and legs, and then we have the knowledge acquiring senses, the ones we're used to, the ears, nose. And they all center about the mind. So jnana, if we just study and it doesn't have any spiritual connection, then ultimately our mind is going to go at some point, right? We saw that happen to our dear friend Gangeya Prabhu. His mind eventually went, but his consciousness isn't lost. So his material knowledge, he can't remember how to maybe do programming for computers like he used to do. Maybe that knowledge is gone. But because he used his work in the service of Krishna, then in his consciousness, he hasn't lost any of the transcendental knowledge. He still has that. It's like Krishna says in the Gita, you're going to take off exactly where you left off. And the knowledge goes deeper because spiritual knowledge is part of the soul. We're Sat Chit Ananda. What's the Chit? The Chit is knowledge. So even if this material mind breaks down, the vehicle of the mind breaks down. It's actually known as a vehicle, the Manarata, the chariot of the mind. If the mind breaks down, the real spiritual knowledge remains intact. So this is the beauty of spiritual knowledge. And this is the real meaning of knowledge. Like Parikshit Maharaj, when he had 7 days to live, he didn't ask about, how do I fix my car? He didn't ask that. He asked, what is the meaning of life? Who is Krishna? He asked real spiritual knowledge that's going to eternally benefit him. So and then ultimately, when we utilize our activities, we utilize our knowledge in the service of Krishna, a lifestyle of Krishna consciousness, a sattvic lifestyle, our mind can be peaceful. And when our mind is peaceful, then we can meditate, dhyana. We can have real meditation. It's difficult to meditate on Krishna when we're always in the mode of passion. We're always just running full speed, trying to make more money, to build more. It's very tough. It's restless. Yeah, tough. So when we try to develop a sattvic lifestyle. Even different times in our life, we may have to be more in the mode of passion, etc. But the goal is let's ultimately develop a sattvic lifestyle so we can meditate on Krishna. So we can be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. And this is the benefit of a life aimed at ultimately deep meditation, which is where we want to go. We want to have deep meditation. That's the samadhi. That's the height of the yoga ladder. So that's the goal of Krishna consciousness, deep meditation. Not just meditation, but love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport of this verse, the premanjana charita bhakti vilochane. That we can't see Krishna unless our eyes are anointed with the pulp of ointment of love. So that's the only way to ultimately see Krishna everywhere. Because is it like a chore? When he sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, it's like, is that a chore? Like I have to see Krishna everywhere? When you're in love, it's not a chore. You want to see your beloved everywhere. You don't even want to. You naturally see your beloved everywhere. It's like gravity. It's just natural. The water naturally comes off the cliff. It's a beautiful waterfall. So naturally, when you fall in love with Krishna, your mind wants to go towards Krishna. Okay, we have a few more. When we feel distant, what reawakens seeing Krishna everywhere? So it's like Jivananda Prabhu says, if we feel distant, it's not Krishna who's left. We left. If we feel disconnected, then we can reconnect. That's an opportunity for us to reconnect. And Krishna's there. He's in our heart. And he's saying that when he sees me everywhere, sees everything in me, I've never lost, nor has he ever lost to me. So he's saying that I'm ready to connect in a loving relationship. Actually, that's my whole intention for your life. That's my intention for your life, is ultimately to connect in a loving relationship. So if we feel distant, that's an opportunity to reconnect. That's kind of like the darkness. There's opportunity to seek the light at that point. And so when Lord Chaitanya felt distant, he called out to the Lord in separation. He was able to connect with the Lord through chanting his names. And everything he saw would remind him of the loving pastimes they had in Vrindavan. When he saw just a random river, he said, "Oh, there's the Jamuna River." He saw just a random mountain. He said, "Oh, there's Govardhan Hill." And so he in that feeling of separation, he actually, on the spiritual dimension, he experienced the highest form of love in Vipralamba Bhava. And this Bhava means like this deep feeling. So he chanted. He just chanted the names of Krishna, like Gaurasundar Prabhu always does. He just chanted. And that way,
Lord Govinda.
Yeah. And that way he was able to ease that feeling of separation that he felt, the disconnection. Okay, what does Krishna's promise, never lost to one who sees him, mean practically? What does Krishna's promise, never lost to one who sees him, mean practically? Well, he's never lost to one who sees him, What does it mean practically? Can anybody answer that one?
Krishna promise.
Yeah, it's promise.
He will never forsake his devotee. Always going to be there. He will see them there.
Yeah,
I always never forget my friend.
yeah.
You know, it's always there for us. You know, I saw that in many occasions. You know,
Hmm.
Krishna. I said, my God, sometimes I forget Krishna, but I never forget.
Yeah,
Never forget.
yeah.
And
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, and then Krishna's reciprocation, right? He's saying he says, all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So we feel Krishna's reciprocation. And so we see that Krishna is there. Actually, when we do a sacrifice for Krishna, when we abandon the mind's demands and we do a sacrifice for Krishna, then we feel Krishna's reciprocation. You know? It's like, Arjuna, you distribute books, and you probably had that experience where you're distributing books and you're feeling Krishna's presence. It's not a material activity. It's something spiritual. It's a different experience. Do you agree with that?
No.
You don't agree.
It's business. It's the family
It's
business.
the family business. You don't feel Krishna's reciprocation.
Through the parampara, yes.
Okay. Well, just keep chanting.
No.
Yeah, many times I've had that experience of one time we were doing Harinam, and we were going to go on Harinam, but then it rained, because sometimes we would cancel Harinam because it rained. And so I was thinking, okay, we're going to cancel Harinam, so I'm just going to go, I've had a busy day, I'm just going to go rest, read, just relax. And I said, wait a second. I was with somebody, I can't remember who it was about to. I said, wait a second, maybe we should go to the mall and distribute books. I just got that inspiration. And so because we made that sacrifice, we decided to not just relax in our rooms. We made the sacrifice. Somehow I had a good moment. Because of that, instead of just having maybe a nice relaxing evening, we felt ecstatic, we felt blissful. We got back to Govinda's, we had prasadam, and we felt so energized, so happy. Because we had surrendered to the sacrifice instead of just following whatever our mind was telling us to do. So we can see that practically Krishna is there. When we enter into the sacrifice to serve Krishna, Krishna is there. Krishna is known as the Yajna Purusha. So he's the Lord of the sacrifice. So when we do that, Krishna's personally present. He says he comes as like the sacrificial fire. He's there as the holy names. He's there in his holy names. So we do the greatest sacrifice in this age, chanting the holy names of Krishna. Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam. Klo Nasdeva, 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 Gatyani. There's no other way than chanting the holy names of the Lord, chanting the holy names of the Lord, chanting the holy names of the Lord. And it's like Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishna. So go Angashta Parshna. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayer, Yachanti Hisa Vedasa. This is the sacrifice. Those who are intelligent perform this sacrifice to please Krishna. And when they please Krishna, Krishna's there with them. Krishna personally reciprocates with them to the degree that we do it with sincerity and feeling. If we do some chanting, but we're mentally not present, we're not going to get much reciprocation. And I'm preaching to myself. We have to work on that every single day with our chanting, every single day. But if we chant one mantra with reciprocation, it's powerful. And sincerity and humility. We chant in this mood. It's a very powerful. It's the most powerful mantra. Okay, this is the last question. Why do devotional activities feel full of Krishna's presence? Because they're part of Krishna's internal energy. So the Antaranga Shakti. And it's not something of this world. It's a categorically different energy than this world. And so, when we do a Krishna conscious festival, we're entering into a categorically different energy than if we went to, say, a concert. Like, what if all of us decided tonight we're going to go to see a concert? And it's incredible. We love it. We're having a great time. And then, but afterwards, generally there's at some point there's some letdown. They call it a hangover. because what it is the mind is enjoying, the senses may be enjoying, but the soul has had no nourishment. The soul is not touched at all. So in other words, you did not have a happy experience. That's why Krishna says there is no happiness in this material world. Because you as a soul did not have a happy experience. Your senses were stimulated. Your material senses were stimulated. But you did not become happy through that experience. So when we engage in a Krishna conscious festival, when again, we ignore the demands of the mind that are telling us, don't go to the Krishna festival. Go take a nap instead. When our mind is telling us to do that, we don't get the nourishment. But when we actually go, we participate. I get that experience every time I come to Mantra Oasis. Because it's a lot of work, preparing for Mantra Oasis during the week, trying to schedule and prepare, and the devotees are helping. All the devotees are helping, and then coming early and trying to set up, and then afterwards cleaning and raising money, etc. Everything that we collectively do for this little preaching center, then sometimes the mind is telling you, I don't want to do this. Every single time I do it, I feel so happy. I feel like Krishna is pleased. But my soul becomes nourished through that activity. I think all of you have that experience in Krishna conscious festivals, programs and festivals. You surrender to the yajna, to that sacrifice to please Vishnu. The soul becomes happy, and it's a totally different experience. George Harrison said the proof of the pudding's in the tasting. It's a totally different experience than going to see your favorite band. Totally different. We've had both experiences, so we know it's a categorically different experience. When God is happy, we become happy. That's the science of Krishna consciousness. And so Srila Prabhupada talks about in this purport about the bond of love. That's formed. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me. I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So he talks about this bond of love. He says the devotee knows nothing but Krishna. Krishna becomes his all in all, and the same for Krishna. The devotee they become each other's everything. And so that is, again, that's why it's the height of yoga, because we're not just meditating on the Brahma Jyoti. We're not meditating even just on the super soul, but we're meditating on the highest blooming of divinity, which is Bhagavan, Krishna. And through this, we're forming a very intimate connection, and our soul becomes nourished through this connection. So we're going to pause here and see if we have any further questions or discussion. Yes, Arjuna.
Yeah, I noticed when you were introducing chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, you said that it was titled Jnana Yoga, and I was just wondering why you didn't go with our founder Acharya's titling of that chapter as Sankhya Yoga.
That's the original Gita? Sankhya? Yeah, so Sankhya means that ultimately it means that we're dividing up the material elements to ultimately understand the self. And so, this dhyana is ultimately a product of Sankhya Yoga again. So there's not, in a sense, there's not a difference between Sankhya Yoga and Dhyana Yoga. One sense, because it ultimately leads to dhyana, just like the yoga, Patanjali yoga ladder. Yam, niyam, asam, pranayam, pratyahara, dharan, dhyan. Dhyan is the last one before samadhi. So samadhi is also dhyan, but it's a deep meditation, like a deep absorption in Krishna. So that's what Krishna is saying. Of all yogis, one who always abides with me thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me is the most intimately connected. So he's talking about this deep meditation, this dhyana. So, okay, yeah.
I've never asked this before, but what would you do for someone who can't speak or hear? If they can't change or hear?
You can't see either.
I don't know, I'm just saying like, if so much of,
So you're deaf and blind. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying like, cause if someone can speak, and I'm thinking about dementia and things like that too,
Yeah.
like, if someone loses their speech, they could still hear. Or if someone lost their hearing, they're struggling to speak, or their senses are, like so much of this depends on seeing Krishna through our eyes, or hearing Krishna through kirtan, but when you start losing your senses, you have to have really cultivated Krishna consciousness through that point to like be able to use your mind, but.
Well, that's why it's like the mind is the greatest tool for our liberation. It's like, so the human form is a gift. We're given the mind in a sense is like a portal to transcend material energy. So we're only going to have the human mind, as long as we're in this human body. That's why they say the greatest fear is devolving into the lower species of life, because the human mind is the opportunity to transcend. So now we can, for somebody who they have dementia, or they can't hear or they see, we as devotees, if we're close to them, just by our associating with them, like if they're a family member, for instance, it said if you become a pure devotee of Krishna, you liberate 7 generations forward and backward. So by you being a devotee, Krishna takes note. It's like we were saying, everything's happening for a reason. We're connected. You become the good smelling tree in the forest. Okay? So there's a tree in the forest that makes the whole forest smell fragrant. So you becoming a devotee, you're going to benefit your whole entire family. So it's not just a mechanical result. It's not just Krishna is directly reciprocating. It's like Gurudev says. It's like just when you interact with people you're devoted, you might not even say Hare Krishna. They'll benefit. Because the more that you become spiritualized by living your life, utilizing everything in Krishna's service, the more that you become somebody that can have effect on other people spiritually. It's like the example of the fire. So it's not just a mechanical process. Krishna's a person. He knows our hearts. He knows everything that's going on, and he's reciprocating. So they'll still get the benefit of the vibration if we chant Hare Krishna. Even the lower living entities, the insects, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, they were getting benefit from. They were becoming liberated from hearing the holy names. They didn't have ears like ours, but they were still getting benefit.
I guess you would prashadam too.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Prashadam. That's an easy one. Easy way. Yeah.
Do they get full liberation, the insects, or?
That's above my pay grade. That's up to Krishna. That's up to Krishna.
What if your house is being invaded by ants?
So yeah, I actually personally my method is, well, first of all, if you keep the house really clean,
Well, yeah.
and then you try to seal, if maybe they're getting in from somewhere, you can seal them up. But what I do in answer getting them personally, there might be better methods. I just get a broom and a dustpan and I sweep them into a dustpan, and then I put them outside. I personally put them outside, and it works pretty well for me. It doesn't take me too long.
Except he does it every single night. When the ants invade, it happens every single night.
Oh.
Dusting them.
If they're coming, but a lot of it too has to do with cleanliness, and also sometimes you have to seal or do some exclusionary work to your house and seal off areas that are coming in. But the dustpan and the broom works really well for me personally. But I just sweep them into a dustpan and put them outside.
It's seasonal.
Yeah.
My roommate was gonna kill the black ants outside the house, and I stopped doing it.
That's good.
Because for one thing, they don't come in the house. And I actually talked to him one time, because I was laying in the driveway, and they were like all over the place, and I said, look, let's make a deal here. We're gonna share this space. I gotta work on cars here, and you're gonna have to do your thing. So you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone.
Yeah,
And it worked.
they're walking on their side of the street, you're walking on your side.
Yes, they actually did that. And I convinced my roommate not to take out the anthill.
Well,
And they're still
that's
there.
great. You know, there's been a story of Regari the hunter. Have you heard that story?
No,
Well, he's a hunter, and ultimately he was preached to by the great Saint Narada Muni, so he became righteous. So he went from killing animals for fun, basically. He was so vicious, so hard-hearted. He would like to see them suffering. He went from such a mean, hard-hearted person to the point where he would not hurt an insect. He became so compassionate, so spiritual. Just through following the spiritual instruction of Narada Muni. So, yeah, it's part of being a spiritualist that we don't want to commit unnecessary violence. Sometimes there's spiritual violence. Like when like Arjuna had to commit spiritual violence, but that was for a different purpose. So, the Kshatriya means to protect. So, for the sake of protection, you can use violence. Protecting the innocent, the vulnerable. You can use violence. So Narahari's good at that. He's like the Krishna bouncer. He takes out the trash. So, okay. Do we have any final comments or questions? Yes.
How does someone stay in a sattvic mindset or serve Krishna the best? For somebody that's, I guess, if somebody's in the rat race, so to speak, or they have to work 40 plus hours, or even like fast-paced work, how do you serve Krishna the best when you have those kind of obligations?
Yeah, it actually becomes really a challenge. So sometimes there's like windows of opportunity in people's lives. Sometimes there's an opportunity to slip something transcendental into their life, and that's where the power of book distribution comes in. Too, because surprisingly, you would think everybody's just scrolling on their phone, but people really appreciate these books. They really do. And when we distribute them, sometimes we'll just see them reading. We've had that experience. We give somebody a book, and then we come to the same area 10 minutes later, and they're sitting there reading the book. So they just get, and Prabhupada said they get benefit, they read one word. So sometimes Harinam too, we have beautiful presentations, Harinam, people just coming by. It's called Agyata Sukriti. So it means they get benefit, but they don't realize it. It's unknowing benefit that they get. So the great way again is the prasadam. Prasadam is a great way because everybody has time to eat, right? So if we get prasadam, that's a wonderful way to help people too. So, but yeah, it definitely can be difficult. But the chanting is easy though. If somebody takes to chanting, I found in my own life, even though chanting objectively takes up a lot of time, you feel like you have more time. Have you ever feel that experience? I mean, I feel like I have more time when I was chanting. You kind of feel like, maybe it's because you clear up your mind. Mantra means to free the mind. You clear your mind from clutter, so that when you are doing your daily tasks and work, you can focus better. You can focus easier. So meditation is powerful, even just for practical purposes.
Even just for the consistency and regulation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so even from a mundane perspective, it's beneficial.
So periodically I'll meet a devotee and we're having a conversation and they're chanting while I'm having a conversation with them. What am I supposed to do with that?
It's not a good idea for them to do that. It's generally not a good idea. But how can you ever tell somebody to not chant? I think it kind of depends on the relationship. Like say, Prabhupada sometimes would be chanting, and then a disciple would interrupt him and ask a question, and then Prabhupada would answer the question, and then he'd start chanting again. So you could say, in a sense, Prabhupada, but I think it depends on the context and the relationship. Like if you're with somebody, and due to social norms and etiquette, you want to connect with them. You don't want them to be distracted while you're having a conversation with them. That hurts your relationship. That's not a good idea to do that. Prabhupada sometimes, just for etiquette or cultural niceties, Prabhupada sometimes instead of saying Hare Krishna, he would say, hello, how are you? He would try to make everybody feel comfortable. So I think it really depends on the context, the relationship. In general, when you're talking to somebody, they want to talk to you. If you're chanting, it feels rude to them. It feels like you don't want to, you're not paying attention. So, but of course we can't control what other people do. So sometimes we just have to tolerate. They're chanting, so we can't be too bad.
Maybe that chanting that they're doing is the only thing keeping them from just completely losing it. And
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But something I was on to add that the question you asked when we have such an occupied life, how can we? So in the Kali Yuga, Krishna, Krishna are very merciful. They understand because in Kali Yuga it's very hard to become renounced, to focus on God because of so much Maya, so much thing. So when Krishna sees we do this effort to come to him, like they said in scripture, we do one step to Krishna and do 10 steps. So Krishna just looking at your sincerity. He don't look at your prestige, your quantity. You don't looking at that like the example of the spider in the time of Lord Ramachandra.
Yeah.
All the monkeys they were carrying big rock, and because the spider was trying to do some service, and they was laughing and just look at it. But Ramachandra says it's not the quantity, it's not the strength, it's the sincerity, the love. So Krishna sees the love of us, the desire. You gotta be sincere. Desire. That's all. That's all.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. It's very simple. Right? It's simple for the simple heart.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you all very much for your kind attention. And so we'll have Arti, then Prasadam. Gorson, do you want to chant?
Yeah, okay.
You want to chant again? And Nari, did you want to do the Arti? Sure. Okay.
Okay.